The grace of God is sufficient in your weakness. Sufficient simply means to meet one need adequately, or a state of being sufficient. Adequately, acceptability, satisfactory, competent, or enough. The grace of God is enough in your weakness. God is not looking for your capability, but rather your availability. God's grace is enough in your weakness. What was Paul done in the flesh? All we can say for sure is that it was some bodily trial which God allowed to come into his life. Don't be ashamed of your weakness or trials or infirmities. In your infirmities, that is where God's power is. The apostle described thorn in the flesh as messenger of Satan to buffet him, but thorns to further the work of the Lord by keeping Paul humble. Sometimes God allows your weakness is for God to humble you to glorify his name. God don't want us to depend in our strength or skills or knowledge or intellect. He wants us to depend on him fully. Successful servant for Christ depend on a weak servant. Successful service for Christ depend on the weak servant. The weaker he is, the more power of Christ accompany his preaching. Anyone that depends on Christ, that is where he will be more effective in his ministry. Let's go to scriptures. I'll read King James Version. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 to 10. I'm reading by King James Version. Unless I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelation, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. Verse 8. For these things I besought the Lord thrice, that it may depart from me. Verse 9. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly therefore I will rather glorify in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Philippians chapter 4 verse 13. God strength avail. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me, not in my skills or knowledge. He said, because of that, he is glorified, he is happy in his weakness because he is depending on God's strength. The last verse 10. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproach, in necessity, in persecution, in distress, for Christ's sake. For when I'm weak, then am I strong. Your weakness is not a failure. It should be something you'll be ashamed of. Your weakness is where Christ's strength is. I mean, in ministry, when God calls you, you have challenges. Some have challenges of sickness, lack of financial, and so many things. God allowed those things to happen. Even attacked by the enemy or whatsoever, God allowed it so that he can glorify himself. He don't want you to be arrogant, to exalt yourself beyond measure. He allowed those thorns in the flesh so that Paul will be humble to depend on God's strength. That's why he said, I'm glad in my weakness, so that God would glorify through me. In my weakness, that is where the power of God is availed.